Good evening. You're now with me, Andy Gui, for TVS Nightline. We begin with this story. The LINGGA State constituency has been identified as one of the new areas with strong potential to be developed into a rice production hub in Sarawak. Premier Datuk Petinggi Tan Sri Johari Donopeng says the move is part of the state government's effort to strengthen food security and reduce reliance on imported rice.
Saya telah memberi kabinet kita peruntukan yang besar untuk meningkatkan pengeluaran beras. Kita jangan bergantung dengan luar. Kita bergantung dengan Thailand. Thailand ada masalah iklim hari ini. Maka Thailand tidak lagi mengekspor beras.
The state's rice production can be accelerated through new paddy seed varieties introduced by local entrepreneurs, which are capable of producing harvests in just 3 months, adding that areas like Kuala Baram are already using these varieties. However, Abang Johari stresses that increasing rice production will only be possible if farmers are open to adopting and adapting to modern technologies.
Sarawak is set to register intellectual property or IP rights for an oral rabies vaccine ORV bait developed by the Sarawak Infectious Disease Centre or SIDC. Datuk Petinggi Tan Sri Johari Donopeng says the vaccine allows rabies protection to be delivered orally, especially to dogs, without the need for injections.
Penyakit rabies. Rabies sudah research center kita dapat muat penemuan di mana vaksinnya si pakai injection tetapi macam gula batu. Maka asuk itu suka makan ya gula batu ya akan memerangi kuman rabies. Termasuklah tidak pusat. Ia adalah daripada research kita dan kita nak meregister IP.
On Friday, Sarawak began rolling out the use of ORV bait for stray dogs as part of efforts to strengthen rabies control measures. According to Sarawak Veterinary Services Department JPVS Deputy Director Dr. Nicholas Janek, the bait enables dogs to build sufficient antibodies in about a month. Abang Johari also shared that Sarawak will collaborate with Fudan University to carry out further research on plants with properties that could help fight cancer.
Dan ini bermakna herbal medicine dengan western medicine menjadi satu cara untuk kita mencari penyelesaian kepada penyakit-penyakit.
After intense talks that took place in Pakistan, Iran and the US did not reach an agreement to end the current conflict in the Middle East, while Pakistan urged both countries to stand by the current 2-week ceasefire agreement. For the updates, Yusuf Shukri joins us tonight.
Thank you, Andy. First things first, the Iranian delegation has departed Islamabad for Tehran after high-stakes talks with the US concluded without an agreement. The delegation, led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghir Khalibaf and accompanied by Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, among others, left Pakistan following intensive negotiations. The US delegation was led by Vice President J.D. Vance and also included Jared Kushner. The talks, held under the framework of Islamabad Talks, were hosted and mediated by Pakistan as part of efforts to permanently end the US-Israeli war on Iran that began on February 28. After talks concluded, Pakistan, the mediating country, urged both Iran and the US to stand by the temporary ceasefire, calling it imperative for them to uphold their commitment. Deputy Prime Minister cum Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar says although no deal was reached by the end of the, quote, intensive and constructive talks, Pakistan will continue to play its role to facilitate engagement and dialogue between Iran and the US in the days to come. Now let's look into what each side has to say after talks concluded. Iran, via its Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghir Khalibaf, says it is up to Washington to decide whether it can build trust with Iran stressing that Tehran will combine diplomacy with strength to secure its rights. Tehran entered talks with goodwill but remained cautious due to the experiences from previous wars. On X, Bahrain says Iran presented the U.S. with forward-looking proposals during the talks, but the U.S. side ultimately failed to gain Tehran's confidence. Khalibaf also expressed appreciation for Pakistan's role in facilitating the negotiations. As no agreement was reached with the U.S. in a single day of talks, Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baqi says it was natural, citing a deep atmosphere of mistrust following recent conflicts. His evaluation is that the talks were held not only by distrust, but also doubt and suspicion following a 40-day war initiated for the second time within 9 months by the U.S. and Israel. Baqi also pointed to the complexity of the agenda, noting that issues related to the Strait of Hormuz and broader regional dynamics had made the discussions more difficult. He did not clarify whether further rounds of talks would be held. Separately on X, he states the last 24 hours was spent on discussing various dimensions of the main negotiation topics, including the Strait of Hormuz, nuclear issue, war reparations, lifting of sanctions, and the complete end to the war with Iran and other countries in the region. Meanwhile, on the opposing side, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance says no agreement was reached due to Iran's rejection of the terms proposed by the United States to the Islamic Republic. He firmly states that the inconclusive talks spell bad news not only for Iran, but could have far worse repercussions for the U.S. From the talks, Washington has not seen a, quote, long-term Iranian commitment to forego developing nuclear weapons. Vance also states that what they proposed to the Iranian delegates was also a, quote, a very simple proposal, and hopes that Iranians will consider accepting in the future. The U.S. Department of State arrested 3 Iranian nationals with ties to the Iranian government after Secretary of State Marco Rubio terminated their lawful permanent resident statuses. Though there is no direct connection between talks in Pakistan, many critics are saying that this was done to trigger reactions from Iran. Said Isa Hashemi, Mariam Tahmassebi, and their son are now in the custody of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement pending their removal from the U.S. According to a statement on the Department of State official website, Isa Hashemi is the son of Masume Ebtekar, a spokeswoman for militants who stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran in 1979 and held 52 Americans hostage for 444 days. She then served as a vice president of Iran between 2017 and 2021. And just last week, Rubio terminated the legal status of the niece and grandniece of late IRGC Major General Qasem Soleimani. Hamideh Afshar Soleimani and her daughter are now in the custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Rubio also terminated the legal status of Fatemeh Ardeshir Larijani, daughter of former Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council of Iran, Ali Larijani, and her husband, Saeed Kalantar Motamedi. And we cannot leave out what Donald Trump has to say about talks in Pakistan. Whether there is a deal or not, he says it does not matter.
In addition to that, we're negotiating. Whether we make a deal or not makes no difference to me. And the reason is because we've won. Whether you listen to the fake news or not, you know.
Classic Trump, which can also be an indication to how much the U.S. administration cares about the repercussions of the war, not just to the home country, U.S., but to the world. Talks are set to resume on Sunday, with Pakistan hosting as the mediator. Well, that wraps up the update on the ongoing war. Back to you, Handy.
Now back in the States, Sarawak strengthens its position as a hub for green energy as the Batang Ai Dam continues to generate 108 megawatts of hydroelectric power since it began operations more than 41 years ago. Deputy Prime Minister Dato' Amar Fadilah Yusof says, with this capacity, Sarawak remains committed to harnessing renewable energy resources for long-term sustainability.
Dan Alhamdulillah, setelah hampir 40 tahun beroperasi, tadi ditaklimatkan oleh SEB bahawa mereka dipanjangkan hayat mereka untuk 30 tahun lagi. Yang mana of course menunjukkan bahawa apa yang dibangunkan di sini merupakan satu yang sustainable dan boleh bukan saja membekalkan tenaga hijau, tapi yang lebih utama ialah telah banyak memberi sumbangan kepada negeri Sarawak khususnya.
Fadilah, who is also the Minister of Energy Transition and Water Transformation, says that in addition to hydropower, Sarawak is also launching a floating solar project in collaboration with Sarawak Energy Berhad SEB and a Chinese company. The project is expected to generate an additional 50 megawatts of energy, further strengthening the state's green energy mix.
Dan ini sudah pasti mengembangkan energy mix di Sarawak, bukan saja bergantung pada hidro yang pada masa ini lebih kurang 60 ke 70% sumber tenaga Sarawak ada daripada air, tapi juga berkembang dengan solar dan gas.
Meanwhile, Fadilah says expanding renewable energy is key to reducing diesel dependence, including efforts to connect the energy grid to Limbang. He says the move is expected to lower reliance on diesel-powered generation in Sarawak going forward. The initiative will also improve the state's energy efficiency.
Tahun ini, connectivity atau grid connection kepada Limbang akan dapat disempurnakan, maka tiada lagi jana kuasa menggunakan diesel di Sarawak. Jadi saya mengucapkan syabas pada Kerajaan Negeri Sarawak dan juga pada SCB yang telah memberi komitmen untuk beralih kepada tenaga yang boleh diperbaharui.
Earlier, Premier Datuk Petinggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tunopeng reaffirmed the state government's commitment to strengthening infrastructure and ensuring a stable energy supply in Limbang and Lawas, reducing reliance on increasingly costly diesel fuel. He says efforts to connect rural areas to the state grid alongside expanding solar energy use will help maintain supply stability despite global fuel price uncertainties.
The public is being urged to stay alert as the country is now entering an active monsoon transition phase, which is expected to bring wetter weather over the coming week. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi says forecasts by Met Malaysia indicate that the weather could include thunderstorms and heavy rain across many areas.
Focus is on the western and inland areas of Peninsular Malaysia, including Johor and Malacca, as well as inland regions of Sabah and Sarawak. Zahid, who is also the chairman of the National Disaster Management Committee, says the weather changes may help ease the recent hot conditions. However, some northern and inland areas of the peninsula could still experience higher temperatures. The public are advised to remain cautious, as this phase may bring short bursts of heavy rain, strong winds, and thunderstorms. He adds that Johor and Malacca are expected to experience rain and thunderstorms throughout the day, depending on the location, requiring continuous preparedness from all parties. The Deputy Prime Minister also expressed concern over water levels in dams in both states, which remain at worrying levels due to uneven rainfall distribution in recent times.
Get all the updates you need all in one app. TVS Inspire brings you live updates on events, news and programs. Available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. TVS Inspire, world on your screen, anytime, anywhere. And those were the updates on TVS Nightline. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.